Orly Goldschmidt. She's a spokeswoman for the Israeli embassy and returns to the show. You've been on the show many, many times before. I wish we were talking under happier circumstances, but the news this morning that two Israeli embassy workers had been shot dead last night at an event in Washington, D.C., I think has shocked the world. It shouldn't really shock the world, but it's a young couple, Yaron Lisinski and Sarah Milgram. They've been named this morning. They were actually a couple. They were about to get engaged. He'd already bought an engagement ring. He was going to propose to her in Israel. And they were shot dead, well, because they were Jewish, because they were Israeli, by a pro-Palestinian gunman. We know he was a pro-Palestinian gunman because he shouted, "Free, free Palestine," after he was arrested. Your reaction, the reaction of other staff at the Israeli embassy to this, I would say senseless, but of course the person who committed the crime probably wouldn't think it was senseless killing.
Well, first of all, we were devastated, and our heart goes to the families of Yaron and Sarah. As you say, you know, it's a shocking event, but none of us were surprised. You know, when you hear in the streets of many cities around the world, including London, globalizing the intifada and from the river to the sea, these calls for incitement actually, you know, bring that kind of violence. And I think this was a despicable act, and it won't stop us. It won't stop me, it won't stop us from representing proudly our country, and we will stand tall, and we will face terrorism everywhere, but we won't stop.
Well, I mean, and this is the thing, isn't it? Because we've got, you know, politicians. We've had, you know, your boss, the ambassador, Zipi Topovelli. She was called in to see the Foreign Office this week to be chastised over policy in Gaza, over the missile strikes, civilian deaths, over lack of aid going in to Gaza. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the treatment was monstrous of the Palestinian people in Gaza by Israel. When we have the BBC carrying on, you know, claims by the United Nations, wasn't it, that 14,000 babies would die within 48 hours. Not at all what the report suggested. There was a risk of famine to 14,000 babies over, I think, a year or 18 months. I mean, nothing like the figure that was spouted. And that lie being continued when we have this talk of genocide, the deliberate targeting of civilians. This is routinely broadcast, the likes of Gary Lineker retweeting blatant anti-Semitic posting. I suppose, again, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that this happens.
Well, again, this is, as you say, it is not a surprise. We're still very shocked and shaken because we feel that this could have happened to us as well. You know, even recently there was a man who tried to jump over the embassy in London, and he had knives on him. So we can feel this threat very clearly. And yes, as you say, incitement everywhere, incitement in here. Many people think that it's very easy to get peace in the Middle East, you know, to stop the conflict, but they fail to understand that there is a real threat against Israel and against us, and security must come first. And of course we want peace. We want to live in peace with our neighbors. We have nothing against the Palestinian people. Our concern is Hamas only, and Hamas that is using the Palestinians against us and against, you know, the Palestinians themselves. You have seen, I'm sure, those courageous Palestinians going out in the streets of Gaza against Hamas and saying, that's it, no more, we don't want Hamas
It's
anymore.
Amazing, actually, the rise, and those are incredibly brave souls, aren't they?
Incredibly.
Because we've seen what's happened. People are tortured and murdered, they've been shot in the knee by Hamas fighters for actually, because that's what Hamas thinks of their own civilians. But this the conflation of Israel, Zionism, the right of the Jewish people to their own country, to their own state, and the conflation of that with Jews, and Jews as a problem, and the rise in anti-Semitism, I think it has been terrifying, not just for Jewish people in this country, in America and elsewhere, but I think it's been terrifying for many of us watching on that this has happened. I think we thought we were beyond that was not something that would happen in our country ever again. Look, we had the rise of Jeremy Corbyn and the hard left in this country, and my God, the man almost became Prime Minister at one point in 2017, absolutely terrifying. But I don't think most of us thought that could ever happen, and yet the normalisation of blatant anti-Semitic comments, I think, is a worry, isn't it?
It's a big worry. I can tell you that people working at the embassy today were looking around behind their shoulders to make sure that they're not being followed, and that's just because they've decided to work in a place that represents Israel.
And bearing in mind these murders last night, they weren't at the Israeli embassy, or they were at the Capital Jewish Museum. That was where it was an event taking place at the Capital Jewish Museum. That's where they were.
Yeah. But when they say globalizing the Intifada, it's about Israel, it's about Jews around the world, and I know that Jews, I can speak for friends that I speak to here, they don't feel safe here. They feel the threat every day. Recently there was someone that took out a mezuzah in front of the front door of
this was the symbol that it's a Jewish home.
Yes.
With a knife. She took it.
With a knife, yeah. It shows that something is going very wrong.
I have knowledge of a teenager who applied to university, who applied to London School of Economics, where of course your ambassador was treated abominably. I remember having her on the show the next day, and she's been advised by a fellow Jewish girl who's at the London School of Economics right now. No, don't come here. It's not safe. It is not safe for you because you're Jewish. Now, a major London university where a Jew can't feel that she's safe to go to university. I mean, I think that's a national embarrassment, a national shame.
Well, I hope this changes. I hope people will be able to feel safe again, not only in Israel, but everywhere around the world. They should not feel threatened because they're Jewish or because they work in some specific place of work.
Or support the right of Israel to defend itself.
Or support the right of Israel to defend itself.
Philip Ingram, you want to come in on this?
Well, yes, there's so much disinformation around. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people.
No.
The last conflict Hamas had before the current one was with Fatah, who represent the Palestinian or part of the Palestinian Authority. People forget that there's 2.1 million Palestinians who are free citizens with full rights living in Israel. There are, they're known as the Arab citizens. There are Arab citizens part of the Israeli army who are trying to deal with the terrorist organisation that's Hamas. And we've got double standards in this country. If a young mother gets 31 months for inciting violence, we're allowing people to incite violence on the streets on a daily basis, and nothing's happening.
It's happening.
That's where we need to stop this.
Absolutely. And again, where it should stop, this should be a wake-up call, shouldn't it? The death of these two young people, a young couple in the prime of their lives. Just simply, let's face it, it was for being Jewish.
Yes.
People think that when people are over-egging the pudding about the anti-Semitism and the rise in those attacks and that threat. This is the reality of it. Orly Goldschmidt, spokesman for the Israeli Embassy, thank you very much for joining us. Send our best to everyone at the Embassy on behalf of us here.